All right. I'll call the meeting to order. Before we get started, let's introduce everyone on this meeting. I'm Sandy Brock. When I call your name, please confirm that you can hear me by verifying that you are present. We're starting with commissioners. Travis,
I'm here.
Jonathan,
Present.
Amira. I'm guessing she's not in attendance tonight.
She's here.
Clearly.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're not showing up. I'm only getting 5 people. So Amira, I'm sorry.
I can't hear her.
I don't see her. Oh, there I see her, but she's on mute.
She was unmuted, but wasn't.
We
There.
can
Now,
hear you
there you
now.
go.
Now we can hear you.
I'm here.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay, then we'll go to our staff, Leah
I'm here.
and Jan.
I'm here.
All right. So this open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order, as most recently extended on March 29th, 2023. Access information for the public has been provided on the town website. This meeting is being recorded. Please remember to mute your phone or your computer when you're not speaking. This is done on the phone by pressing *6. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please note that you will not have screen sharing privileges, but staff can display any visuals per your queue. During periods of public comment, participants must use the raise hand icon in the Zoom menu bar to indicate they would like to speak. This is done on the phone by pressing *9 and then *6 to unmute when you are called on. Participants who raise their hands will be recognized one at a time and will be promoted to speak. Finally, each vote will be conducted by roll call vote. As a reminder, the Commission is concerned with state and town wetlands and stormwater regulations. Concerns outside this purview need to be addressed to the appropriate boards. For example, road conditions must be addressed with the select board, and traffic concerns must be addressed with the planning board. All right. What's up first, Leah? And I'm not sure who was supposed to lead because I thought I wasn't here. I'm totally open to if someone else wants to lead the meeting and I can be just a member.
I led it last time, so I think it's your turn again, Sandy.
Okay. All right.
Or Travis.
I'll just stay on mute.
Or whatever. Doesn't matter to me.
Next
Okay.
time, Sandy. How's that?
All right.
Do the rotation.
Yep. That would be nice. Okay. Action items.
You want to talk through the enforcement order?
Yes. Is someone here or?
No,
Okay.
but I didn't expect them to be.
Okay.
So 12 Centennial Drive, which is UPS.
Yep.
They had sediment breach their erosion control in 7 spots on May 15. They flagged it right away on their next SWIP inspection. Art has also been out there on rotation. They took all 7 areas and repaired what needed to be repaired and strengthened everything ahead of the next storms, but they needed a mechanism to go in the wetlands and clean up the sediment that escaped.
Okay.
So I issued an enforcement order to allow them to they put together a whole cleanup protocol, which is in Dropbox for you guys. So I issued an enforcement order that would allow them to do that work within jurisdictional areas. I gave it a few conditions beyond what was in the protocol, that the work will be overseen by their environmental monitor, who's the one who's been doing these inspections. Any areas where soil is exposed due to the cleanup shall be immediately seeded and coated with a light layer of straw mulch, and then seed mixes and mulch shall be available on site before they start the cleanup work. And then the plan is we would get follow-up inspection reports from their monitor and as well as from Art. He will be scheduling his next visit after they do this work. So it just needs ratification from you guys, or if you have any questions for me.
Sure, let's go around and see if anyone has questions because I have a few questions. But so, Jonathan, any questions on this?
No, it seems pretty straightforward to me. I don't have any specific questions on it. It's
Travis.
unfortunate it broke.
No, no questions.
Amara, do you have any questions?
I don't have any right now, but I might
Okay.
later.
So I do have several questions.
Sure.
One is, and this is it's more geared to it's more geared to what happens next time as opposed to, cleaning up this one.
Mhm.
And that is, who on site monitors the weather reports. All of these storms have been predicted. So, it's not like something is coming out of the,
Yeah.
that's I don't I kind of curious just what their protocol is when you hear that. I mean, it was only an inch of rain. So it's not, even if it was an intense storm, it was probably one of the thunderstorms that came through. But even that's not such a size storm. So I'm curious, what kind of preventative stuff they do. And then
Okay.
as far as repairing the erosion control, the silt fence, and I think they had, I looked at the photos, so they had silt fence with wattles, I think is what they showed.
Correct.
In those areas, because there was some sort of concentrated flow of sediment, are they going to put in super silt fence? And do they have any plans for doing that?
I
So
believe the entire perimeter is already super silt fence.
okay, because when I looked at the photos, it didn't look like that.
Okay. The segments we walked the day we walked it were.
Or super silt fence, so it was
Yeah.
basically chain link fence with silt fence in
Mhm.
front of it. Okay.
Right.
I don't know why when I looked at the actual, and they still breached.
Maybe the added repair is not super silt fence. I can check on that.
Yeah. So to me, it's more about, yeah, they have to, um, your enforcement order is fine. I don't have any issues with that. I don't have any issues with the protocol or anything like that. I'm more worried about that was a relatively small storm.
Right.
Okay. And you had, what did you say, 7, 9 breaches or whatever?
7 spots.
7 spots. So that just makes me, what are they doing when they have rain forecasted to help prevent that? And, what are the actions? And if you have that many on that small a storm, then I'm curious what enhancements they did. And again, I realize that the construction is always changing, but that's why they're responsible. The site people are responsible, and they should be monitoring the weather. And I'm very curious what happened during the nor'easter, because that was twice as much rain. It was probably spread over time, but it was still a significant event compared to the first one. So those, it's more just to make sure they're on their game for future ones if they didn't handle a 1-inch storm. And that's
Okay.
based on me looking at local weather. I think it was probably Worcester Airport, and they got an inch of rain. One
Mhm.
something, 1.0
It-
something.
Sandy, their report says 1.1 inches of rain, and all of these breaches look to be a 2 to 3 foot section of silt fence with just wood stakes as the
Right.
backer.
Yep.
So there's silt socks that got thrown around
Yep.
from all the photographs in here, but it looks like the entire perimeter is just this low silt fence with wood stakes, and the wood
Right.
stakes are bowing when that water and silt comes up against it
Right.
and toppling over. So it's not like a chain link fence or anything
Well,
significant.
yeah. So the super silt fences, there's different brands and different. It's a generic one. It's a wire reinforced silt fence. So
Mm,
some people just use a construction fence, like a chain link fence, and put silt fence against it. So that's one way of doing it. They do actually sell quote unquote super silt fence that can have wooden stakes, but there's a reinforcement so that it's not just the fabric. There's actually a mesh, a kind of a chain mesh type of fence behind it. So
Doesn't look like it's holding up in these spots, so I think what you voice as a concern is definitely a concern of mine. I mean, just looking at these pictures, it looks like for such a small amount of rain, it did a lot of damage.
right. And that also has to do with how it's graded at the time, what's exposed, the load of sediment coming down. But if those are quote the let's say the flow patterns coming off that hill, then I would never say, hey, you have to put all super silt fence and this is the type and all this kind of stuff. But you now have identified certain locations that you had problems with, and how have you kind of beefed it up, and so that if you get another large storm, which we've had plenty of, um, and a large is a relative term, what talking 1 inch, 2 inch, that's a fairly it's within a 1 year storm. But again, it's like, if you have an area that you see had issues, then it's up to them to do something more so that doesn't happen again. So my
Mhm.
concerns are like, are you appropriately kind of responding to it? Do you have a mechanism if you get a big rainstorm on the weekend? Um, and again, this is a big enough operation where they've got plenty of people and they should have someone that's just doing erosion control. So that's kind of my take on it, Leah. So it's less about what your enforcement is. It's more just follow up and just say, okay, this happened. You're going to fix it. What can you do to prevent it in the future?
Yep. So they repaired all 7 spots ahead of the next storm. Put new silt fence or new wattles or clean sediment away from the areas.
Yep.
They've also done a significant amount of work towards stormwater basins since that
Yep.
storm. So the patterns on the site will be drastically
Different.
different.
Yeah. And that's really because it's going to change, another 50 times before they get things, stabilized. It's going to be a constant change in where the water's flowing and so forth. And it's more just like I'm not worried about the day-to-day stuff or the small, rain events. It's really like when you do get forecasted some sort of more either very intense or larger storm, what are they doing to kind of it can be as simple as when they know something like that is coming, they can just do stuff as easy as, you know, a berm or something to control where the water goes. And it's their job, it's their construction site. They can kind of manage the way they want. But so my concern is, which is again why we have um, the our peers out there doing these, inspections and stuff, which is good. And I'm very happy that they were very proactive and reached out to you as opposed to letting one of those inspections find it. So there's good parts of this, but I'm just looking because it is such a large site to make sure they're proactive the next time they've got forecasted and so forth. And I would agree with you if they've gotten the opportunity to, you know, put in some basins and stuff, that will, that will do a lot to prevent, some major discharges. But yeah, maybe time for a site visit because this would be a good example of just showing everyone just what happens on a site that has so much um, disturbed area on it and stuff. So, but that was really it. Just I'm more concerned about the future. You've got the response to this, and they did step right up. So they've got the response down. I don't have any issues with what you included or anything like that. It's more like it's really early in the project, and they already had a problem.
Right.
That's my concern. So
And this is the second problem, right?
the first one was over clearing, right, Leah?
Yeah, they cleared
Correct.
beyond the limits.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's all I've got. So I don't think it's
Okay.
going to change that, and I don't think it will change, making a motion to ratify the enforcement order at all. Those are my concerns. makes me nervous that it happened so quickly. That's all.
I can relay all that to them.
Yeah, it's funny because I just walked by it on a walk the other day and stuff. So a lot of altered area out there. So
Yeah, it's massive.
yeah, yeah, got a sense of that. So
Yeah.
okay. Quickly go around. Does anyone else have anything else to add? Travis?
No.
Okay. Amira?
No.
Jonathan?
Nothing.
Okay. So all we need to do is to have a motion to ratify the enforcement order for 12 Centennial Drive. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to ratify the enforcement order for 12 Centennial Drive.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Travis?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Amira?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. So that motion carries. Okay. All right. So up to the public hearing for 710. Let me go back to the lead sheet. Okay. Anything else before we move on to the public hearing?
Go for it.
Okay, great. All right. Oops, this is the. All right. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Grafton Conservation will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of an addition, above ground pool, and driveway expansion at 55 Wesson Street. So, who is here to discuss that?
Good evening. This is Norman Hill. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can, Norm. Go ahead. You got the floor.
Good evening. It's good to see you all again. And a special welcome to Amira. I know Amira from church, so it's good to see her there. So my client, Matt Burke, lives at 55 Wesson Street. He collects sports cars. He collects sports cars, and he'd like to be able to preserve them from the elements. He'd like to put them inside a garage. So the existing lot slopes downhill from the road. It's a pretty flat lot, but it does go downhill about 4 feet, over 100 feet in distance. And there's lawn surrounding the driveway in the house, and there are boulders that define the 25-foot zone all around the. So if you went to the lawn, you'd walk downhill a little bit into the woods, you'd see the boulders. So my client's not proposing to cut down any trees. He's not proposing to expand his lawn. Rather, he'd like to build a garage and an above-ground pool in an area that is currently lawn, located behind his existing house. It's a gently sloping area. It's all nice lawn. This house is well maintained. And then the driveway, you can see how the driveway comes in off of Wesson Street and goes into an existing 2-car garage. He'd like to be able to expand that driveway a little bit to go into the new garage. Now, so like to park his 2 sports cars in this garage. He's not going to do any maintenance on them. He takes these sport cars out maybe on a Sunday afternoon when it's not raining, it's not snowing, there's no salt on the road. But they're for his pleasure. I mean, some people collect stamps, some people collect coins. This guy collects sports cars. So that's why he wants to build a garage, just to house his 2 sports cars. I'd be happy to, and we did provide a little area for temporary stockpile when they dig out for the foundation for the garage. And then they can stockpile it over there. And we are proposing siltation controls, the straw wattles and the silt fence all around the existing lawn. We've got a detail on the plan that shows what that looks like. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. Oh, one other thing. When this was originally an order of conditions was written years ago when this house was built. And in that order of conditions, it specifically states no further development shall be allowed. So when I look at this, I don't think he's proposing any further development because the house is developed, the driveway is developed, the lawn is developed, and he's proposing the garage and the pool in an area that is currently lawn. So that that, I just wanted to address that. I don't believe he's proposing any new development here, so I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Burke, you have your hands up. Would you like something to add to that?
Sorry, yeah, no, I don't have anything to add. I just wanted to, I'm here, happy to answer any questions as well. Norm covered everything.
Sure. Just a quick question for me. When you bought the house and this went through permitting, did you realize there was that condition issued to you that you would not be able to develop the site any further?
Yeah, we spoke with Jan at the town office. At the time, it seemed like it was mostly about developing the upland and back, which isn't on this plan. But that yeah, we didn't. I don't like Norm said. I didn't think this was development. This seems like construction or an addition. But yes, aware of the plan, aware
Okay.
of the condition.
Okay. So as far as, what you're proposing to do, I don't think I have a lot of questions. It's more about, we did issue that because of your proximity to the wetlands, and there's a very big difference between having a lawn and having buildings that have roofs and has runoff and has impacts. It's a lawn is very different type of impact than driveway and a garage and so forth. Um, but again, let me first go around to the rest of the commission and see what they kind of have questions and comments on this. So, Jonathan, do you have any questions or comments or take on this particular additional disturbance and development on the site?
I'm not sure how our bylaw would read, or if we have a specific, like how we've done it in the past. So I understand the mindset of the argument of it's work that has been done. You've created a lawn area, so now you're just replacing the lawn with a driveway or a pool and a garage or an outbuilding. So if it's like the use of the space is changing from lawn to something else, a structure. But I just don't know if in our bylaws and if our like historical record, if that's something that's an acceptable argument, because it's going from lawn to something else. They're both finished, or whatever. They're both developed. But is that part of the hang up there really? Is that it's a development, or is it? I just don't know what. I wasn't here in 2014 when we voted on this.
Right.
Prior, but I just didn't know if there was a history to this type of, like, have we done this in the past and said, yeah, it was lawn. Now you want to put a building there. We said no development, but it's already developed, so it's replacing the existing development. I just don't know if there's a history of that with the commission or with
Yeah.
our group.
I mean, there's none that I'm aware of. We've never had a lot that had a no further development on it come back to us. That doesn't really answer any of the questions, so that's really up to us. But that's, those are the
I was
questions you
just
should be
seeing if
asking.
there
So,
was,
yeah,
yeah,
no,
I was
there's
just
no
seeing if
precedent.
there was a history of anything like that. It makes sense to me that, yes, I understand that they're both developed, but the word they use is the continual development or the additional development.
Yep.
So no other
Right.
question, but
Yeah, and to be honest, we should be looking at every site as an individual site, meaning every
Sure.
site has its own conditions. Like in this particular site, there's actually uplands in the back, right? So, but there's no way to get there. I mean, that's a reality of this site. But then again, it's what's specific to this site. But yeah, at the time it was like, yeah, it doesn't meet all of our requirements, but you know what? It seems reasonable, but we don't want any further development. So that's where that comes from. Um, and that was, a while ago. So
Sandy, could
uh,
I jump in here with something I forgot to mention?
sure.
So those boulders have all been placed at the 25-foot, no disturb line. Now, we worked on this site 11 years or so ago, and we've gone out and resurveyed it, and I do not see 1 square foot where these homeowners have violated that original barrier. I mean, a lot of times people will move a boulder, they'll expand their lawn. I just don't see where these homeowners have done that. I mean, they have not expanded 1 square foot in any direction. So they've been very respectful of your 25-foot no disturb zone. I think that's something that you should consider when you make your decision.
All right, thanks. Travis, any other comments?
Going back to the original meeting minutes, the commission noted that because the 75% upland was being utilized, they requested that there be no further disturbance / development to the lot. I guess I read that as further development of any portion of the upland. And I personally don't consider grassy areas as previously just developed. That's my original take on this. Also, there was another special provision that noted a 4-foot wide swale along the driveway, between the driveway and the wetland, needs to be installed to direct stormwater away from the wetland, since the driveway is so close to that wetland. Was that ever installed, that 4-foot wide swale?
I'm not sure. Matt, are you aware of that?
There's a drain pipe there, but I'm not familiar with that condition.
So if that, I guess if it was installed, or it was, I guess I'm curious, if we do proceed with this, can the plan that you're proposing incorporate that 4-foot swale? It sounds like it's not there now.
Could you just point to, I'm just pulling up the order of conditions where that, because I don't recall that.
It was
that.
probably on the plans. Is that what you're seeing it, Travis?
SP8. It was in the original order of conditions, like
Oh, okay.
towards the end. Oh, too many windows open. Page 9.
So
SP8. Page
I mean,
10.
there's a depressed area from the it's not closer to the home that kind of collects water. I'm not sure if that was considered the swale. We're not proposing to alter that.
Sufficient length and depth to impede the flow of water from the driveway to the wetland, allowing settling to occur to keep solid and liquid waste from entering the wetland.
It was probably just something to slow the water down at the time.
Yeah, I think that exists today at the edge of the driveway, closer to the temporary stockpile, and the way it's kind of there's a divot in the grass. So I'm guessing that is what was done.
Yeah.
It's more pronounced closer as you kind of work down Weston Street to the southwest.
I think that, this survey may not have enough detail on it to show it, but you would have
So, I
to
mean,
go
I think
out and take a
we
look at it.
received a compliance certificate at some point
Yeah.
after the work was done, and we haven't altered any of that. So I can't speak to specifically to that, but it was signed off at some point, I guess would be my point.
Right. Which
So I
is
guess one of my other
important.
questions would be if that 4-foot swale between the driveway, including the new driveway and the existing wetland, would be maintained.
If it's where I think it would be, the answer is yes. But I mean, we can obviously amend the plan to ensure that, or have an additional condition attached.
All right. So, Amara, do you have any kind of questions or comments on what we're looking at here? I mean, this goes back a ways, goes back 10 plus years, but feel free to ask any question.
Sure. Yeah, I was mostly curious about how or what plans are in place to mitigate runoff from the new structures. Especially around the driveway that kind of goes pretty close against those boulders.
So that'd be a question back to you, Norm.
Yes, we have not proposed any infiltration systems here. It's a single family lot. Very little disturbance, there's really nothing that triggers stormwater management, but I think my client would be willing to, put gutters. Matt, are there gutters on the house now?
There are gutters on their house, yeah, and we'd be happy to we'd be planning to put gutters, quite frankly.
Well, I'm thinking in the back right corner of the house, we could probably put a leaching pit in that lawn area. Are you willing to put gutters on the garage?
Yep, yeah, I mean, we're planning to.
So you could run the gutters to that infiltration system, and that would take all the roof runoff and leach it into the ground. Now, the garage is gonna be on slab, it wouldn't affect that. We could get it maybe 10 feet from the house. There's a fair amount of lawn there to the right of that proposed garage. So it sounds like my client would be willing to put an infiltration basin to the right side of that garage, maybe 10 feet away from the house and 5 feet away from that garage, and not disturb any of the boulders or the tree line, or just work within the existing lawn.
On which way is the proposed garage roof? Which way is the peak goes?
So if I was standing in the street looking at the house, the garage is gonna go behind the house.
Yep.
And that infiltration system would go to the right of that garage.
Yep. And how's the roof gonna be? What's the roof looking like? I'm just trying to figure out how you would pick it up and get it there. That's all.
So Matt, what's the gable look like in that garage? Is it, the peak?
We haven't, yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten that far, but the roof of the house, it would be reversed, so you need gutters on both sides, I think is
Okay.
to cut to Sandy's question.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of that. That's kind of direction I'm going. Is
Yeah,
some of the concerns are you're getting very close to the boulders and so forth. Yes, you're still. I think you meet the 25 feet around the whole house, Norm.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. But it's really like what is the change on the site that, and again, just to be honest, great, you have, cars that you enjoy and all that kind of stuff. I have to tell you, tomorrow morning I'm going to pick up my '86 Mustang that just got restored. It's the first
nice.
car I bought after my graduating from college. That's a separate thing. It doesn't impact what I'm going to say or whatever. So from that part of it, that's great that that's what you do. We don't really care because that's really not what our concern is. Our concern is protection of the wetlands.
Mhm.
That's the key thing. And so that's what we need to focus in both on the state level, but also, on a based on our local bylaw and so forth. So on the state level, it's more just how close you are. Are you potentially impacting it? And probably one of the aspects that you could impact would be the impervious from the garage and the new driveway, and where does that go, and does it have an adverse impact on the wetlands? So those are the things that we are concerned with, in addition to the fact that when this order was issued, there was a kind of restriction put on it that no additional development and so forth. So that's
Yeah,
Right.
and I mean, happy to make modifications, to alleviate those concerns. Like Norm mentioned with the gutters and collecting the water. I mean, happy to tweak the driveway if that makes, things more acceptable. Just on the development piece, reading the backstory, the meeting minutes from when this house was originally permitted, it was suggested that was about developing the backland, the back upland. The word construction, and I don't think the word disturbance was used.
Yeah,
That's my recollection. So I mean,
yeah.
language matters, right?
Yep. And also, and it's funny, it seems like the word development would be very easy to look up and what it means for DEP.
Yeah,
It does not. I've run into that of what that definition actually means and how it gets applied. So let's just kind of keep on the path that we're going, and talk about this to see what other potential issues and what other things, that may or may not be able to be mitigated, and so forth. So,
So
uh, y-
Sandy, if I could jump in with something. So the existing house, you can see it there. It's a pretty large footprint. So if we were to take the gutters from that house, that impervious area exceeds the area of the increased driveway. And so if we're going to take a leach from the house and the garage, leach all of that into the ground, I think you can clearly see you're going to have a reduction in runoff here.
Is there a reason why it wasn't done previously? Because we were looking for
Well, 11 years,
infiltration.
yeah,
Yeah.
11 years ago, we didn't talk about stormwater management, but
I was around. I think I was still around, or was, or I would have been new and so forth. But um, so this is let's keep going and as far as the pool, and not that I really care what kind of pool you have, but we do care about it. Is it what type of pool filter do you have? Is it salt based or is it chlorine based?
And we're obviously haven't purchased a pool, but
Okay.
the idea was to do a saltwater based
Okay.
lap pool, that,
Yep.
that creates like resistance.
Oh, okay. All right. And again, you can do whatever pool you want. We don't. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys want to do. It's more about what potentially and basically it's more about the maintenance of the pool. Where do you discharge it? Those type of things. Obviously, if you're doing, kind of more of the traditional pool, there's chemicals involved with it as opposed to more of a salt-based pool, which still has, I mean, salt is a component, but it has a little different impact potentially on the wetlands. And then the other question is where does that discharge go and so forth. And it's more of a general question. It's not something that we're going to tell you what to do, but it's more like how do you handle either the one treatment versus another kind of filter treatment and so forth. That's really all that's about. um
so,
uh,
so Sandy, he could pipe that backwash outlet to this infiltration basin.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, if it's a salt base, I'm less worried about it because it doesn't have the chemicals in it. Um, but that will be something we'll just kind of need to discuss. But um, so one thing, Leah, do you have any other kind of comments from your report?
Um, they don't have a DEP number yet, so we can't
Okay.
close tonight.
Yep.
I know it wasn't captured in this order, but I know when we say something like this in conditions these days, we spell it out further and say, like, this means no additional sheds, decks, pools,
Right.
patios, etc. I know we didn't capture it here, but I'm just throwing that out there for food for thought.
Right.
Other than that, you guys pretty much hit on all my points.
Okay. So let's go around to the commissioners and just kind of get a sense of what their thoughts about based on the information that we have so far, what's proposed here, as it relates to potential impacts to the wetlands, as far as are there ways to mitigate that? What is we do have this kind of condition that was perpetual, um, but it's let's look at what we have in front of us. And I think there's a lot of different ways we can go, and I don't want to try to um, sway people one way or the other. Just let me know what you think. So, Jonathan, as far as kind of your take on, what's proposed in the lawn area, what potential mitigations, or kind of your sense of that perpetual condition that was put on this when it was constructed.
If the condition reads as the commission also determined that if the order of condition was to be issued, the applicant was utilizing, this is what's coming out of the meeting minutes. The applicant was utilizing all the 75% upland and that no further disturbance / development to the lot would be permitted. It's literally like he can sit on a fence and say it means the entire lot or it just means the upland. And I don't know, that's why I asked my question before. So I'll have to read through it I'll have to read through it in more detail before I can weigh in on that. It seems I can read it in either direction. I heard it the way Travis talked about it, and it's like, okay, they talk about the upland, that's about the upland, or it could just be the entire lot. So
Yeah, it's got more. It basically what it's referencing is that In our bylaw, it talks about that when you do a house, it has to have a certain amount of continuous upland. And so even though this site has a lot more upland, it's just not altogether where where the building's going. So that's what's, makes this lot unique for what we're talking about. And that's always important to remember. So,
Sure.
Travis, what kind of,
Um,
what's your reactions?
I guess I'm concerned about ruling prior conditions without a compelling reason. You know, a plan that provides a greater level of protection to the wetland resource is key if I'm gonna overrule a prior condition. I'm also concerned that provision 8, the 4-foot wide swale along the driveway it sounds like that wasn't implemented. And I think that would provide a greater level of protection to the wetland.
Okay.
Those are my thoughts.
All right.
Also,
Thank you.
Sandy,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was 4 in 1986.
No, it wasn't 1986. When was it?
No, your Mustang.
Oh, God. Yes.
Those
Reminding
are my
me
thoughts.
of my age.
I was
Yes.
1, Sandy.
And we're not even going to talk to Amira because she was not even a thought yet. So,
Those are my thoughts, Sandy.
okay.
Came along about 9 years later.
Yes. Yes. So Amira, what kind of, general kind of questions or reactions and so forth?
Yeah, I feel like I'm echoing a lot of the concerns that everyone else has expressed. I just mostly like to talk more about how we can, if we move forward with this plan, how we can keep runoff out of the wetlands and into another area. But I also have concerns about overruling previous conditions.
No, it is. I mean, that's the whole idea of putting those type of conditions so that they're in place. I think we're probably better at doing it now than we were then. Um, and then, and again, to me, I would echo what everyone's saying here is that, you know, having, a little bit more enhanced, yeah, it's a single family home, but this now is going to have a garage and a pool and some other things and expansion of the driveway. And we're very close to our setback, a no disturb zone, I should say. And so providing some, you know, additional protection for the wetlands would be a minimum. I'm wondering, um, just from, I'm wondering if it would be helpful, and this is again for the commission, is if the applicant just kind of went out and you don't have to do anything, dramatic or anything. It's just put stakes at the corner of the garage and where the um, where the pool's going to go, just to so that if we did a site visit, we'd have a much better idea of what the layout is and just how much kind of additional impact that you're doing, and then looking at where are the potentials to do where's the potential to actually put in infiltration and those type of things. And I'm wondering if that is something the commission thinks would be worthwhile, or let me start with Leah, if you think that would be worthwhile just to understand this site a little bit better.
I mean, I'm okay with or without. If you guys would like that visual, that's your call.
Okay. I don't know, Jonathan, if you think that would be helpful in kind of looking at this site and getting a better understanding it so that we can, be deliberate in how we approach this. And like I said, everything is unique. So we want to make sure that whatever we end up and whatever findings we have, we can back them up. And so future commissioners can look at it and understand it.
I think doing a basic, like, here's the corners or whatever that you were just indicating, Sandy, might be helpful to visualize it in comparison to just looking at it on the plan here. But obviously not something extreme, just a basic,
Right.
here's where the box is.
Yep.
And then we could probably judge it better of how we think the stormwater and those components will play into it, because that it will get tight back there, obviously. So.
Yep.
Sandy, would it be possible to schedule a site walk? Because I know they mow this lawn probably once a week. I'd like to put the stakes in, maybe, like, say you schedule a Saturday morning, we could put the stakes in like Thursday or Friday before the site walk.
Yeah, and then I'm going to get to that and ask people if they want to do it, and it would either be, I'm curious of doing it just to kind of get. Again, I look at plans all day long, but it's always a little bit different perspective to see it in the field. Um, and again, it we'll have to figure out if we do, if we decide to do a site visit as a group, then we have to we have to make that public and so forth.
Mhm.
Or we just come by, and then I'd like to give the homeowner a heads up that random people aren't going to be walking in your backyard. We would probably have the courtesy to let them know when we're going to do it. So
That's fine by me. I mean, yeah, you're welcome to come take a look, and we're happy to. I mean, I need Norm's assistance, but to stake it out, that's
Yeah.
totally fine.
um,
Can I address the swale?
Sure.
'Cause I'm
Yep.
looking at it closer. I've never really looked that close at that condition, to be very honest. I think that is where the driveway comes off Weston Street and then goes straight. There's a noticeable divot. I mean, I'd point out that we at some point we got certificate of compliance, and again, I'm not that familiar. I'd have to go back and look at the meeting minutes with that, but just seeing where the concern is about directing water to the road, and Norm mentioned that it does flow down. I believe that's coming, if you were coming straight in off Weston Street in the driveway, right at the end,
Gotcha.
there's a divot that collects the water. It's noticeable, and we're not proposing to change anything about that.
Okay. And again, that's what a site visit will do
Yeah.
is to, Travis, any kind of comments or any kind of desire to see something like that?
Yeah, that could be
It-
helpful. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
if my schedule on Saturdays will work, but
again, and it's one of
Yeah.
those things where, to be honest, it's not going to be like mandatory or anything. It's really just for
No.
information.
I mean,
and
if we
stuff.
organize something, I'll do what I can to try to stop by.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amira, is there any kind of other questions, or would something like that help to go out and look at the site?
Yeah, I'd be interested in going out. I haven't done a site visit yet, so
Yep.
that would be fun
Okay.
and interesting.
Yeah, and for me, it would have to be on the weekends, and we can figure out that separately and
Yep.
let the homeowner know. One of the things is the fact that we haven't got the DEP number, so we can't close this hearing tonight, no matter what. I'm just trying to get to a place so that when we have our next hearing, we're all we can't deliberate when we go to the site. We have to be very careful about that because there's all these open meeting laws that we can't. But for each, we can go out there and look at it and just look at the information. Any kind of discussion has to be done during a public hearing, and we would follow that obviously. But it's an information gathering and so forth. And if you're around, great. If you're not, that's not a big deal. We're not really going to be doing a whole lot other than walk around your backyard. So
I work in real estate development, and so I'm yeah. I appreciate you giving the overview, Sandy, but familiar with these things.
gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you're very welcome to come do that. However best for the board to set it up.
Okay. I appreciate that. So
So Leah, when is
um,
your next meeting?
I
2
didn't
weeks, I
hear the
would think.
question.
When's our next hearing is 2 weeks.
The 17th.
So it'd be June 17th. So
So I would like to suggest that we request a continuance until that June 17th meeting. And I will get these corners of the pool and the garage staked within a week from today. So by next Tuesday, those stakes should be in the ground. And then we would invite you to come out and take a look after next Tuesday. And that way the stakes will only be there a week or so. It won't interrupt lawn mowing much. But I'll get those stakes in before next Tuesday. And if you guys could come out and take a look, maybe we'll be better able to address this when we do next.
So Sandy, the driveway
Yes.
too, right?
yes, yep.
Norm, Sandy, if you could do the driveway as well.
And if it's simply putting the
The
little flags in
expansion
there,
of the driveway.
yeah, even just
And all-
putting flags in or paint or something. We're not looking for, anything, just to show where it is. That's all.
And also, I'll revise this plan to show that infiltration system.
I mean, that's one of the things we can talk about next time. But I think we all want to just be able to feel very comfortable. I also have a concern with looking at something we put in place, even though it was X years ago. Um, we do that for a reason, um, and there has to be something that balances out. That would be why we would, reverse that. So that makes it a little bit higher level to kind of get over and so forth. But you know, but I think but we have to discuss it. We have to understand, and again, the issues impact to the wetlands as opposed to whether it's a grass area or whether it's a pool or something. It's really what it does to the wetlands that's more important than anything else.
Mhm.
So, all right, Lee, anything else we have to cover now other than we've been a continuance has been requested. So other than that,
Gotta
Oh.
open to the public.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did look to see, and there wasn't any attendees there, but thank you for that reminder. So at this point, if there are any public in attendance, and if they have any questions or comments or happen to be someplace else and can raise their hand, please do so, and be happy to answer anything. So, and Leah, you and Jan can keep an eye on that in case anyone comes in. So. All right. Based on that, can I have a motion to continue the hearing to our next meeting on June 17th?
I'll move to continue the hearing to June 17th.
Second.
Okay, do I have a second? Yeah, motion is second. Do a roll call vote. Amira,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Travis.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The only thing I would advise is that if you can, just double check on your DEP number. I do not know how quickly they're coming out right now, but if we don't have it, we won't be able to close. So I'll leave that up to you.
Okay.
We don't have any influence on that at all. So,
All right, thank you all.
Okay. all right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Leah, any other action items or did we go through that?
I had a couple things that we added at the last minute. One is a set of minutes from our last meeting, May 20th.
Okay, I think I opened that up. I did. Okay. I was not there, but I did read through this. I didn't have any comments. So I'll put it out to the other commissioners. Does anyone have any comments or suggestions for the May 20th, 2025 meeting minutes?
I was there just for a quorum.
Okay.
I ran it. So I'm good.
Okay. I'm not seeing comments or excuse me, suggested revisions or anything.
No.
Do I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from May 20th.
Correct.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Travis.
Yes.
Amira.
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also a yes. So the motion carries. All right. Anything else, Leah?
It's time to do our annual reappointment of all our reps to our other committees.
So much fun. Okay.
So the way it is now, Sandy, your CPC, Travis is Open Space and Rec Commission, Bill was our LQC floater.
Okay. So an LQC is Lake Quinsigamond
Yep.
Commission. Because Lake Quinsigamond comes into Grafton a little bit, we sit on this commission. Jonathan did it at one time. If you want to do a quick recap of what happens there.
Bulk of the meetings, they're in person. They're in the Shrewsbury town offices. it's a good group of people. They're mostly lake residents that have, or someone that has an interest in the lake, including the Shrewsbury and Worcester police. So there is some discussion of the wetlands treatment to invasives, which we participated in the last few years in donating some costs from Grafton, I believe from CPC, and then we've coordinated that to get that money to do the testing and the analytics for all the invasive treatments. So some good is definitely come from our participation there, but the bulk of the time in that meeting, especially in the summer, it's more about policing of the lake. There's a lot of people that use the lake. There are a lot of people that have personal and police-based squabbles, so it ended up being more of that during the typical, but obviously it ties back in with the outfall of some of the storm sewer from Worcester and Shrewsbury into the lake. The boating on the lake, especially there was a gentleman on the commission that was heavily involved in the sculls and the rowing. So it's a lot of different folks. In the summer, it tends to be more of the enforcement of the rules of the lake, the boat launches, that type of stuff. In the shoulder season, it's more of how do we treat invasives, and I think they meet once a month, but I think we've been kind of going as needed, Leah. I think it's
Correct.
more of a
On demand
probably-
almost.
probably quarterly or something. Is I don't know what the actual request would be, but I went to all the meetings every month, and a lot of the time it was just kind of listening and absorbing. So
Yeah, and the
Wasn't-
other key, yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm done.
Yeah, I
But-
was going to say, obviously the reason why we're involved is that the water flows out of the lake through Grafton, and that's where like doing invasive treatment and things like that has an impact on our town, and so forth. So that's how it kind of came about, and I believe it's Jonathan, Shrewsbury, Grafton, Worcester. Any other towns?
Shrewsbury, Grafton, Worcester, that's it. But there's
Yeah.
there's civilians that are on. There's, if I'm not sure if Peter's still the commissioner or the lead, but there's also the police force, and they tie in heavily to the people from the boat launch and all that type of stuff too. But it's a group of, I think, 8 people or 7 people total. So pretty well represented from other towns, and there's larger populations from Worcester and Shrewsbury on the lake. But like you pointed out, Sandy, it's where the downflow of that. So
Yep. And just to mirror, is there any other, like the CPC, do you know what that is? And do you need any kind of like quick little discussion on that? What's the other one? And the other one's the open space one. So, and Travis has been dealing with that.
Yeah, I don't know what the CPC is, but going back to what was it, Lake
Yeah, Lake
Quinsigamond?
Quinsigamond Commission.
I'd be willing to attend those. I think I just need to know like when they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know they're
and we
once a
can,
month, but just want to make sure that would
Yeah.
work with my schedule.
and again, there's some flexibility in there. It's obviously it's more important to be there when they're talking about things that impact us, but that'd be great if you would want to kind of volunteer to do that. Leah and Jan can help you with those kind of logistics and so forth. So, and CPC is Community Preservation Commission, which is the folks that do the so the town of Grafton participates in what's called the Community Preservation Act. And what that is that the town has to vote into it. And basically, if you own land or own property in Grafton, I can't remember. I think maybe 1.5% or 2% of our taxes would tax extra, and it goes into this fund. And what it does is the purpose of it is just to provide monies for things that don't typically get spent on, and those things include open space, They include historical preservation, and those type of. There's a very specific set of things that you can use the money for. Recreation is one of them. So I'll give you a couple examples of what that money has been used for, to buy open space. So a couple years ago, we bought a couple of lots down by one of the lakes. And then if you ever go to North Grafton, right where Route 30 and 140 come together, there's a park right there by the river. That was a CPC money that it had other monies in it, but we did a park where they created a park in an area. There's been some recreation projects done. Sometimes it's ADA accessibility. Historical stuff is, trying to preserve historical buildings. There's some money been spent on the library. And the way the law is set up and the way the commission is set up, that there is a representative from conservation on the CPC. And so because some of the things that we do is about open space. And so, that's one of the ways that a town can acquire open space. And so there's a lot of examples of that. And so I've been on that one for a while. And it's monthly, but it's not every month. There's a whole process. I'm just beginning to understand what the law is, and I've been on it for a few years because it's very specific, but it's a very cool thing that things that would not get attention, like parks and open space, there's a funding mechanism. And typically you can't, it doesn't fund the whole thing. So you tend to, like with the library, they tend to get maybe a grant, and then they use some of their own money, and then they combine that with CPC money to do like the cupola, because that's a historical building, and it was falling in and leaking and everything, and so they redid it. So that's kind of the historical preservation. So it's an interesting program, and it's something the town has to actually vote in to do. So, and if you look at the
Cool.
CPC site, there's a lot more information and a lot of the projects and stuff. So,
Nice.
but yeah, that's just that. So it looks like Leah, you got your. I'll stay with CPC. I don't mind doing that. And then if Travis is okay with the open space,
Yeah.
I don't think it's heavy right now.
We were meeting for a while, I think monthly, and then last couple months it's tapered off. But
Okay, yeah, and then it's sort of monthly for CPC, and Lake Quinsigamond would be, Leah and Jan will get you the timing of it. And what we've done in the past is kind of say, if it's in the middle of summer and you don't need us there, we don't need to come. But I'll let you, if you want to go to a couple of meetings, and then you can get a sense of it and make kind of, let us know what's going on so we can make it worth your while for doing. So,
Makes sense.
okay.
I
Do you need anything
think-
else?
I
Yeah.
do think we have to make motions on those because it's appointments.
Okay. So do I have a motion for the appointments for the representatives for the different commissions and committees and stuff?
I'll move to appoint Sandy to CPC, Amira to Lake Quinsigamond, and myself to open space.
That's okay. That's okay. Yep, absolutely. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. So I'll just do a roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Amira,
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also a yes. So the motion carries. So Leah, you mentioned that there was someone interested in the open slot on conservation.
Yep. He's
Is
got.
yeah,
Go ahead. What?
I was just going to ask what the background was.
He has an environmental background, environmental policy,
Okay,
so
cool.
it would be perfect.
Sounds good. All right. Now I get to ask anything else left.
Oh
Nope.
yeah. Well, I have a question.
Yes.
Do we have any okay, so I noticed on my walk in my neighborhood there's a lot of Japanese Oriental bittersweet. kind of
Yep.
wrapped all around the trees. Do we have, or what are things that we can do? Or is there anything that we can do or that we have planned to do to
So
address some of these?
yeah, so there's um on public lands there are, and I'll let Leah kind of, because we've done some different invasive removals on public lands, on town land and stuff. On on some projects, we have opportunities to do it, and then other people may choose to do an invasive removal. But Leah, I don't know if you've got a little bit different information than I just gave.
I mean, yeah, it depends what property it's on. If it's on private property, I mean, we can do public awareness posts and things like that and encourage people to get rid of it on their own property. But unless they have like a filing before us, we can't go too much further when it's private property. Jan is looking to start a weed warrior program though on our conservation lands, where we're going to get volunteers together to help get rid of invasives on the conservation lands. And Jan, if you want to talk about that at all, you can. We're looking to get that started though.
Yeah, so it's a program through the Sudbury Valley of Trustees and their arm called SISMA, which is like a regional conservation effort. So the idea is that we certify individuals so that we know that they're identifying the right species, and then how to remove it so that they could go on and lead their own days to do it. In the beginning, I'll be sort of supervising to make sure that everyone's sort of pulling what they're supposed to and leaving what they're not, and that we're disposing it in the correct way. But ideally, eventually, some of these volunteers will become more like lead volunteers and be able to organize like their own polls. And so right now, we're kind of starting small with one property. We're going to be starting with Merriam Road, and just sort of like sectioning off a small quadrant and just kind of eradicating everything we can from there and slowly spreading outward. But hoping that we could sort of make this a more town-wide thing. And there's a lot of residents who've reached out who have a lot of initiative. So I'm trying to sort of channel that in a way that we can make a bigger difference than just one property at a time. So
Yeah, I know I get to do that on my property every year, so that's and I don't. It's a lot better, but it's amazing how you don't get rid of them. You just can. For me, anyways, I'm just controlling. But yeah, so
yeah, it's something that's going to need continual and perpetual maintenance pretty
Yep.
much everywhere. So
does that help you out, Amira?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, Jan. What was the name of that? Could you send me the name of the organization that
yeah, sure. It's called the Weed Warriors,
Weed
and it's put
Warriors?
on through the Sudbury Valley Trust or Trustees, SVT.
Trustees, it's
Yeah,
trustees.
Trustees. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Have they ever done work in Grafton? I've worked for them many years ago on they do a lot of projects where they like to acquire a larger piece of land or to make it work with the owners is they'll actually develop a couple of house lots and then they own everything else. So say if they have a 50-acre lot, they might develop 6 acres of it and then the rest is left as open space. And I had worked on, oh God, this is a long time ago, 20 years ago. They had this kind of they had whenever they had opportunities, they'd be able to do stuff like that. And so they're very kind of interesting group in how they do things, and once they make that land open space, it stays that way. And there's a lot of trustee um, properties that you can go hiking on and so forth. And it's just I don't know if there's any in Grafton though.
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think so. The ones that I was doing stuff in Sudbury and some other places, but they're all over the state and stuff. So very good group. It's really interesting. Yeah. So.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right. Leah, anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. Just kind of a push for MACC. I don't know if everyone has had a chance to check out their new website, which is kind of, they've updated it. It's a lot easier to find things and so forth. And I did ask that question, Leah, about the quorum, and
Yeah.
yeah, so I didn't get an answer but anyways, I started that ball rolling. So
Okay.
hopefully, yeah.
I did talk with the town administrator, and our understanding is his understanding as well. Which is, as long as it's a majority of those still present making the decision.
Okay. All right. It's the being present kind of. Yep. Okay. And again, I was just, and that's what I had heard before, but then someone tells me something else, and I always question it because I'm not an attorney.
Yeah,
And
that's the way I've always heard it, and that's the way he had always heard it as well.
okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, that's, but anyways, but yeah, just as, and then the fall conference will be coming up um, in September, October, and they'll be at Devon's again. So nothing on the updates on the wetlands updates or the new stormwater manual.
No, crickets.
Yep. I think the last time they said something was early, either the end of last year, January, saying that it was first quarter, and now it's not. So
Yeah.
don't know. I have nothing to share on that. So, all right. That's all I got. Does anyone else have anything else, any questions or anything else to add? Then it's that time.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yeah, motion and a second. Roll call vote. Jonathan, you're on the big screen.
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Amira,
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. Hope everyone enjoyed today's weather and hopefully get a few more days of it. So.